Welcome to Lair, the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, another in my series of heavy thoughts. This is where I take a moment to ramble on for a little bit about what's been on my mind lately. And what has been on my mind has been, what if bands were to play live less but put out more albums? This was inspired by two things. I recently did a video about the future of full-length records. Is there a future for full lengths? And I talked about how, maybe how would people feel about bands if they released more singles and EPs and stuff like that, just released stuff digitally. And what also inspired this was I've been watching the Beatles Get Back documentary. And at this point in the Beatles' career, the Beatles were a studio band. They basically showed up at the studio like a 9-to-5 job and just wrote music. They didn't play live anymore. And it got me thinking that what if bands nowadays were to do that? Let's say Iron Maiden, or one of the big bands, the legacy bands, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. Let's say they were to do this. They were to just do studio stuff. And I had this discussion with a friend. I think it was Darren. You all know Darren. I talked to Darren, not just about Black Sabbath. We talk about other things too. And one of the things that he said was, there's nowadays with album sales not being what they are, bands have to make money from playing live. And I get that, but what if, let's face it, like Iron Maiden, the fans are going to buy, if they were putting out an album every year, they're still going to buy it. I really believe the same amount of people that buy an Iron Maiden record that comes out every 5 to 6 years, which is the rate they do it at now, those same people would buy those albums if they came out every year. And you say, well, there's not enough money there for them to get by on that. They have to play live. They have to make money to play live. Well, let's say that instead of touring, they just did more special appearances things. Let's say Iron Maiden were to come to New York and play Radio City Music Hall for 3 nights in a row. And it was Iron Maiden, a night of Iron Maiden. They play a long set, take a 20, 30-minute intermission. They come back, they play another set. And they play tons of deep cuts and stuff like that. And instead of touring, they play 3 dates in New York. And then they don't play for a month or two. They play 5 dates in LA. They just these kind of one-shot 3-4 shows, all one place, stripped down production rather than having big stage shows with airplanes and all this other stuff with big stage props. It's just them on stage playing with a minimal light show. Would anybody care? Would anybody complain? I don't think so. I think that people would like it. I think people will go way out of their way then to go see one of these shows if you knew that they weren't going to be playing as often. They could charge more, and I think people would be totally fine with that. And again, if they were putting out new material, if they were putting more emphasis on recording rather than touring, they'd be making revenue from the records too. They'd be able to come out, play some songs from those records. And then, the live shows, if you knew that they weren't going to be playing, doing a 6 or 9 month tour, they're just doing 5 dates in Sweden here, and then 5 dates in Stockholm, and then, everybody would come from all over then to see those shows because they know it would be special. It wouldn't cost as much for the band to do it if it was a stripped down stage production and they don't have to be flying in and out. They're just going into one place and staying there. I don't know. I just think that it struck me when I was watching the Beatles thing, like this is how the Beatles were able to put out so much music because that's all they did. They came in like a 9-to-5 job and just wrote songs. And again, a completely different era than the one we live in today. But I think it's an interesting thought. And I kind of wish that, I'm in the future of full-length video, I commented on how I wish the bands wouldn't go so long between records. And, this is an extension of that thought. What if they just played less live and put more emphasis on recording stuff in the studio. Maybe you do pay-per-view concerts and things like that too, live in the studio things. They could do stuff like that, make money that way also. So times have changed, and it's a different era. Different era. The way people consume music, the way people go to concerts and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a thought about a different way to approach this whole thing. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. What if a band like Judas Priest or Metallica just said, "Hey, we're just going to be in the studio and every now and then coming out and doing special weekend shows and stuff like that"? Would that work for you? Do you think that that's even possible for bands like this? Let me know in the comments down below what you think. And until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.